Two teams remain in the undefeated column in week 4 of the NFL, and one of them is the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. Katie Caldwell, Jeff Lloyd back here with you today. Jeff, this Eagles team, we've talked about it before. They're so good. They can beat you in so many ways. But it is a bit of a roller coaster with them this season. So last week they had a slow start against the Rams, and then this game felt like a bit of a tale of two halves as well. Why are they struggling to execute for an entire game?
Well, I guess yesterday it would have been the last 30 minutes, right? The first half kind of looked good, and then all of a sudden they couldn't get anything going in the second half, which allowed Tampa Bay obviously a chance to get themselves back into the game. And it seems certainly odd because, you have Saquon Barkley who, should have ran for 2,000 yards last year, but, took the professional courtesy and said, I'm fine. We're not going to have to chase a record. Obviously, there's more important things like the Super Bowl, which certainly worked out for them. Um, they get lost at times, I think, with their passing game. And it's nice that you have all these options and Devontae Smith, and you can work in the tight ends, and Saquon's certainly a factor. But it absolutely blows my mind that this team will go a month and just kind of view AJ Brown as like, oh, this is this neat little thing we can do
Me
every now and
too.
then because he's just bigger, he's physical, he's stronger. There's not many ways he can be covered. And me, it would be no question about it. My script would be okay, my first 5 plays, I'm throwing it to AJ twice, and I'm probably handing it to Saquon twice. And you know what? After that, those four, I'm doing one of those two things again.
Hmm.
You need to absolutely feature AJ Brown because it makes the life easier for Devontae Smith. People are going to have to back off the line of scrimmage, which opens things up for Saquon Barkley. You the Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is more of a quarterback than the Eagles let him be at times. We can say all these things, and of course, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. They're 4-0. But yes, but I mean, some of these games, look, they could have easily lost and probably should have lost last week to the Los Angeles Rams. They very easily could have lost yesterday to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you can't keep saying that, well, it's just good enough because eventually, there's going to be a day where it's not. The Detroit Lions team is going to win that game 2 weeks ago. And the Detroit Lions team is going to win that game yesterday. They really have to just, in my opinion, AJ Brown, in my opinion, is probably just as good a wide receiver as Saquon Barkley is as a running back. And I think the Eagles need to show that the respect that it deserves. And he needs to start being featured. And you know what? For the other guys, your number comes when AJ Brown is not open. You
Yeah.
are literally the second read. You are the third read. First and foremost, I want to feed AJ Brown because the running after the catch ability, 6'2", 230. He starts running wild in people's secondaries. Defensive backs are getting dinged up. And
Hmm.
then guys start thinking a second and a third time about, well, I don't want to get run over by this guy again. And guess what? Now you run Saquon Barkley up the middle, and that's how you get those runs that we saw all January last year, where he was absolutely just having his way. They really need to make AJ Brown the focal point. There's just no question because I think their offense, if you have such a good running game, if you can throw to essentially give less pressure on the run game, it's just going to enhance the run game. It shouldn't be this
Hmm.
difficult for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Quick pause. If you haven't subscribed to the BetCanada YouTube channel, you can do so below. It's free and it helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you NFL and NHL content. Now, back to the show. The Eagles have forced a turnover, I think at least one in each of the 4 games as well. It feels like this is a really big key to their success right now. What else stands out to you of why this is working? Is it just their versatility that they can beat you so many ways?
They've always been smart with that, and the thing that I really, really also enjoy is, I mean, we're working in a whole bunch of new pass rushers now with Philadelphia. Obviously, there were changes
Hmm.
from last year's Super Bowl team. Ojama's getting a little bit more work in the middle with the two Georgia boys, of course. And Jalax Hunt is just a straight, great speed guy off the edge. And I think when your defense is as fast as Philadelphia is, the offense has no choice but to kind of just hurry up their pace, which, anytime you say, what was the old John Wooden line, be quick, but don't hurry, because what it meant was being quick meant being diligent, but hurrying meant you were prone to mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of what the Eagles do with the speed and the tenacity they play with on defense. You get the offense out of their comfort zone, trying, everything's always about on schedule. Well, now you are trying to work faster. So you're not on schedule. So that means the quarterback's trying to throw the ball quicker, then the routes are developing. And then that's how you kind of get into these things. But they've always been really smart at jumping balls. Cooper DeJean obviously had the huge one in the Super Bowl last year. And Philadelphia is really smart in this approach that they tell their defensive backs, you can break your assignment if you're getting me the ball. I will live. And
Mhm.
even if he came close and they still caught it, I am not going to take that tenacity away from you. I am not going to take that away from you, which can have such a tremendous impact, not only on the game, but also getting into the other quarterback's head. And the way Philadelphia just plays to the strengths of some of their guys is smart. But yes, this is kind of it's a very 4-0 feeling, but it feels like, the most bland dessert you ever got, and it's like, they're 4-0. Okay. You really feel like you should be expecting more from this team right now when you get deeper into it, and you look at some of the numbers and you're like, How actually are they 4-0?"
Mm.
That's the part that really gets you starting to scratch because when you get deeper into it, it doesn't really look like a team that should be 4-0.
I completely agree with that. So they did play the Bucks in this one, who were previously undefeated. Now they are 3-1. Baker said post game, he said this group is too damn good to start slow, and said this should piss us off. So I just love seeing this version of Baker Mayfield in Tampa. I love his leadership. I love his accountability. What were your big takeaways from the Bucks in this one?
It's really, really hard not to, I was always a Baker guy, obviously, and then there was that whole 2-year period where he definitely wasn't himself. And once he got back into playing more like Baker Mayfield, you got to see him become Baker Mayfield. And you think that's the thing why he was so appreciated in Cleveland is because nobody was harder on Baker Mayfield than himself.
Mm,
And that's why you really, doesn't necessarily want to take much of the credit even when he plays well. Oh, well, Mike Evans is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. He makes my life easier. Even Emeka Ibuka, I didn't even think we had room for this guy, but man, I'm glad they brought him in. Look at the difference he's making for our offense. The running backs, wow, these guys can do it with the ball in their hands. They can catch it out of the backfield. And yeah, I think for Baker, because, we talk about the NFC South and we kind of talk about, the lack of what's necessarily there in the NFC South. And Baker is intelligent enough to know the measuring stick for him and his team is not going to be the NFC South. It is obviously
mhm,
going to be the bigger opponents from the bigger divisions. And when they cross over and play the AFC teams, that's what's ultimately going to be how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are viewed. And the fact that it was in their building, the fact that Tampa Bay had had a lot of success against the Philadelphia Eagles going back 10, 12 years, that's where I think Baker was probably a little frustrated and rightfully so. And you can't necessarily, say, man, well, if the defense played in the first half like they played in the second half, this is a game we should have won. But it kind of was the deal. They picked it up certainly in the second half and gave the offense a better opportunity. But in the same respect, Tampa Bay could have scored some more points in the first half as well. So it is tough, I think, for Tampa. And look, you try to win for 4 straight weeks in a row in the final minute. It's just not feasible football in the NFL.
mhm.
Eventually, you know what I'm saying? Your time is going to, the time card is going to get stamped and you just didn't get it done in time. I think the bigger message, probably for Baker Mayfield and certainly for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's not necessarily about the last 30 minutes, the last 10 minutes, the last 5 minutes. It's about the totality of the 60 minutes.